Hello, and welcome back to the Connells Combat Pod. We are on episode 3 of my podcast. I think the first 2 episodes went well. I had fun doing them. I've made some improvements in terms of my speaking, not saying I really focused on that in the last podcast. So hopefully I will continue down that route, but no further about me. Let's get straight into some of the news going on in combat sports, starting with Paul versus Woodley, which is taking place this Saturday in Tampa. And not only Paul versus Woodley on this card, there are some other fights like Frank Gore and Deron Williams, 2 former professional athletes, Frank Gore being a running back and Deron Williams being a point guard in the NBA, who used to be a star, kind of got washed up out of nowhere. And yeah, they're having a boxing match, so that's weird. But I'll start with that, I guess. I watched the open workout of both Deron Williams and Frank Gore hitting pads. And obviously they're not going to look crazy smooth or anything like that. But Deron Williams didn't look terrible. Kind of stiff, like any new boxer would. But he had his hands up. Obviously, hitting mitts is going to be way different than how you look in the fight when the punches start getting thrown. So yeah, that fight will be interesting to watch in terms of how those professional athletes will adapt to a different sport, right? Because we saw how Nate Robinson handled it. Not great. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Frank Gore and Deron Williams do. And then let's just get into the main event. Jake Paul Tyron Woodley. Obviously this fight has come together under circumstances in which Tommy Fury, the initial opponent for Jake Paul, pulled out due to a rib injury. And it's funny because of all of the videos that came out with Tommy Fury doing like conditioning with Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury's just smashing this huge medicine ball against Tommy Fury's rib cage for conditioning. But yeah, he had to pull out due to a rib injury and a chest infection, so kind of ironic. But either way, we have this fight, and personally a little more excited for this one than I was the Tommy Fury one, because I don't know, obviously I know the history of Tyron Woodley a little more, being an MMA fan. Probably more invested in Tyron Woodley as a person than I am Tommy. So a little more stakes and a $500,000 prize in the contract if Jake Paul gets knocked out for Tyron Woodley. He gets $500K. $500K knockout bonus. So that's pretty cool for Woodley. Hopefully that'll make him want to throw his hands, which he never does, especially in his last 7 combat sports fights, 6 or 7 combat sports fights. So we will see how that goes. I'm going to be watching, and I watched an interview from a channel called Wade Concept. Great MMA channel if you haven't seen it. Mainly focuses on YouTube boxing stuff. But he interviewed BJ Flores, which is the head coach in Jake's camp. And he was talking about how Tyron's a tougher fight than Tommy, which is debatable. And how Jake's going to come in lighter into this fight, which is interesting. Trying to go more of the speed route, but Jake's talking about wanting to finish him, so you're going to come in lighter, less power. I don't know. I thought that was interesting that he's going to come in lighter. I bet it's not going to be a huge difference. It's probably going to be like 5 pounds or something like that at the most. So, yeah, I watched that interview, and BJ Flores is confident, I would say, with this fight, as he is going to portray, because why would he be like, I don't know if we're going to win this one. He's obviously going to be like, yeah, we got this shit. But I don't know. I'll make a prediction after I do some of the UFC 269 prediction. Or that was last weekend. After I do some of the UFC card predictions going on. Underratedly good UFC card going on this weekend. So yeah, I'll do my prediction right before I do those picks, and we'll rewatch some first fight highlights. But on to other news. Khabib Nurmagomedov, former lightweight champion, is starting his own promotion, Eagle FC. I think it's been started for a little bit, but he's doing this big media tour about his first events in the States. And he's made some big signings, mainly Kevin Lee, who was cut from the UFC following 2 straight losses, one to Oliveira and Rodriguez. Yeah, that's a good signing for any promotion, because Kevin Lee is still young. He's got some name value, and anytime he fights, you'll have a little bit of intrigue depending on his opponent. And speaking of that, on an interview with Ariel Helwani, Kevin Lee's done 2 of them in the last 2 weeks. He said that a potential opponent for his March fight, because that's when he's going to be making his debut with the Eagle FC promotion, one of the possible opponents that was being, one of the names that was being thrown around was Diego Sanchez. Damn. I don't know. It's just not a great way to start off. Obviously Diego Sanchez has a little bit of a name, but if Kevin Lee loses to Diego Sanchez and you just sign this guy, this is your big signing. Come on. There goes your big signings reputation if he loses to Diego Sanchez, who has been off the rails for basically his whole UFC career, but been especially off the rails since he got with that Joshua Fabia. I know they split up, I'm pretty sure. I don't even friggin' know. I'm pretty sure they split up, though. Yeah, if you lose to Diego, I don't know. Feed Kevin Lee, a prospect that you want to build off, I would say. One of your Russian guys, Khabib. I'm talking to you, Khabib. Give him one of your, Russian 165-pounders. And that's another thing. Eagle FC is opening a 165-pound weight class, which is just awesome, because it's never made sense how it went from 155 to 170. I get that it's tradition, but I think the UFC would benefit from moving on from that. I know that the 155 and 170 divisions are so stacked, and by putting that 165 division in the middle, it would kind of spread things out a little bit. And Dana's said it before, where it's there's too many champions. But that's just adding one champion. And if you go 150, 145, 55, 65, 75, 85, I think that's adding one more belt holder isn't bad. But of course, it's been tradition that lightweight is 155 and welterweight is 170. And yeah, it's hard to change or stray from tradition, really. But I don't know. I think with Eagle FC, they're adding the weight class. It'll be interesting to see what kind of prospects are going to get built up in this promotion and in that weight class, and if any fighters from other promotions like Bellator, One Championship even, or the UFC will leave the UFC, will leave their current promotion just because of this 165-pound weight class, because a lot of guys are too big for 55, just like Kevin Lee, are too big for 55, but too small for 70, and they're in that weird spot since it is a 15-pound weight gap. And there's that same situation. Oh my! There's that same situation with middleweights and light heavyweights. People who are too big for middleweight but too small for light heavyweight. That's where a 195-pound division would be introduced, but then it's getting a little condensed, and we don't want to become boxing. But boxing is a little extreme because they have it every 6 pounds or something like that. So I think Eagle FC Khabib is smart to add this 165-pound weight class because you got to bring something new if you're an MMA promotion in 2021 going into 2022. You have to bring something new that intrigues people because the UFC's got it on lock, right? They're the number one by far. But if you bring in these different elements, like PFL's trying to do they have a bunch of different ways of judging fights. One championship has different ways of judging fights, and those weight class things, like hydration tests, but we don't know how serious those are because one championship is a little sketchy. Their women's champion, their strawweight champion, has apparently missed weight 3 times in a row, but they just keep it. So it's a little sketchy. They keep it under locks. It's a little sketchy over there at one championship, but if you want to stand out, you got to do something different. And I think this 165-pound weight class will be good and will be intriguing and will make people want to watch Eagle FC. And they have, this is all from Ariel Helwani, 10 events planned in America for 2022. Their first event will be in January, headlined by Tyrone Spong, a former kickboxer, really good kickboxer, and he's headlining in an MMA fight against Sergey Kharitonov, who was in Bellator for a while. I think he just recently left Bellator. And then Rashad Evans, that one's rough. Why? I don't know. Rashad Evans? Come on, man. Come on, Khabib. Don't do that. You're going to kill Rashad Evans. He was already washed 4 years ago when he retired, and now you're going to bring him back. Not ideal. I didn't catch who he was fighting or anything like that. But yeah, him and Kevin Lee, as I said, is going to be fighting in March, on the March card, and they're going to be based in Miami. That's their home base for Eagle FC. The promoter guy was going on and on about it. And another interesting thing is Henry Cejudo on commentary. I think that's going to be good. I think Cejudo will do a good job on commentary as long as he's not being cringe Cejudo on the commentary, keeping that act. I don't think he will. And Felicia Spencer as well, who recently retired, and obviously former title challenger to Amanda Nunes in the 145-pound weight class, but she retired. She's I can't, there's no more reason for me to fight. And she's got a commentator gig at Eagle FC, and I bet that gig was partially responsible for her retiring. So good on Khabib giving her a job. She should be alright as well. I think. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I think this Eagle FC will be interesting. Especially the 165-pound weight class. And I think there will be some obvious really good Russian talent coming out of there. And then our final news of the week before we get into predicting some fights is Poirier versus Nate Diaz. Now, as all of you know, Dustin Poirier lost in the third round via submission against Charles Oliveira for the belt. He was obviously devastated by the result, and he went on Ariel Helwani's show and was talking about he doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't know what's next. He doesn't want to cut to 55 again as he's getting older. He doesn't see a way back to the title, really. He doesn't want to go through the fights that he would have to go through to get back to the title. And I think he's a little bit over exaggerating it in his mind. Maybe he's thinking about it like he's overestimating the amount of fights he'd need, because if he goes in there and beats like Chandler even, and then Gaethje wins the belt against Oliveira, you could go Gaethje Poirier right there. If Oliveira gets like hurt or something, I don't think they do an immediate rematch. He's not that dominant of a champion unless some sort of controversy happened in that fight. But yeah, I think his road back to the 155-pound title isn't that bad. I think he's overplaying it a little bit in his head. But the cut is what he was talking about. So if he doesn't want to friggin' cut the weight, then good for him. Because cutting weight, I think, is one of the biggest problems with MMA, UFC right now. If they did something to the rules of weight cutting, because it's going to take someone to get seriously hurt for the weight cutting rules to change, because people are cutting 20 pounds in a week or something, 2 weeks. That's not out of like the ordinary for these guys who are big and trying to go down and weight bully, really. And it's just not good for their long-term health. And obviously health and safety of the fighters is number one priority. Obviously getting them paid as well is another big priority. But if you want to keep them healthy and safe, if you do something about weight cutting where you can only cut maximum 10 pounds, maybe that changes the game and I think it'd make the fights better. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. I strayed off a little bit there. What I wanted to get to was Poirier was kind of lost and he didn't know what to do next. And Ariel offered... No, it was Poirier. After he went on his little tangent, like, I don't know what to do next. And then he said, unless Nate Diaz wants to fight. And then Ariel and Dustin started talking about that fight. And after the interview, Nate tweeted at him. They had a little back and forth. I can't remember exactly what was said, but they went back and forth on Twitter. And yeah, that could be a fight that could work, because I know Diaz has that fight left on his contract. And if he fights Poirier, be a good big money fight, I'd say. Put that on a co-headliner of a pay-per-view under a title fight. Works perfectly. And they were talking about it for January, as soon as January, which would be impressive for Poirier to just bounce back that quick after a loss. He probably just wants to get that sour taste out of his mouth. And they were talking about it on UFC 270, which is the Ngannou and Ciryl Gane card, which would be sick. And supporting that claim would be that they moved Cannonier and Brunson, which was supposed to be on 270. They moved it to 271, which is supposed to have Adesanya versus Whitaker, but that's not signed yet, apparently. But Whitaker seems like he's super down for it, but Adesanya called cap on Twitter when Helwani announced it. He said he put a cap emoji, or I don't remember what it was exactly, but yeah, it's not signed. Nice yawn for you guys, a little yawn ASMR. But yeah, it's not official yet. So they moved Brunson and Cannonier to that card, which makes sense if it is going to be headlined by Whitaker and Adesanya, a little middleweight tournament thing they always do. But that leaves room for Diaz and Poirier to slide in the co-headlining spot for Ngannou and Gane. Unless there's a girls' title fight that I'm forgetting, but I don't think there is. I don't think Valentina fights on that card or anything like that. So yeah, that would obviously be a good fight, because Nate's tough as shit and Poirier's tough as shit, but Poirier has the advantage everywhere, basically, except for maybe jiu-jitsu, because Diaz has got some good submissions, obviously. But, man, I could not see, unless Poirier gasses out, I couldn't see a way Nate Diaz would really win that fight. Poirier's got to gas out bad, and then Diaz has just got to swarm him, which could happen. You never know. So, yeah, I think that would be a good fight. But let's get into the Woodley versus Jake Paul prediction. My prediction. I'll predict just the main event. I won't predict the Frank Gore, Deron Williams, or the Serrano. I'm not too invested in either. Could you tell I don't get enough sleep? I'm not really invested in either of those. So I'm going to watch back the highlights from the first fight between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. So yeah, if you don't remember what happened in this fight, Jake Paul won by split decision, which I think was a little bit bullshit. He probably should have just won by unanimous because of how inactive Woodley was. And Jake was just staying away, keeping his distance, jabbing to the body, jabbing to the head. Not really throwing anything with super malintentions. That was a nice combo there. The double jab, uppercut to the body. But yeah, Woodley was the one pushing him against the ropes for most of it. But he wasn't throwing any offense behind it, really. So didn't matter too much. It's that overhand from Jake that he loves. He just a left hook from Jake. Working the body well at range. And I think he's got to do more of that coming into this fight. Another good combo. When he throws those punches down to the body, he doesn't really change levels much. He's kind of reaching down for it, so his chin's kind of there. And while I was watching the fight live, when Jake would jab to the body, I thought that overhand right over the, not even an overhand right, just a straight right for Woodley over the top, because Paul wasn't doing that good of a job of hiding the body jab. Like, watching at home, I could see it coming. He'd kind of have a wind up to it. And there, Woodley landed a nice shot, and Jake Paul ate it. Respect. You got to have respect for Jake for taking this fight on 12 days' notice, keeping the event going. Nice left hook there. And there is when he gets rocked. He goes against the ropes right on the temple. He's looking away, throwing that left hook. And he was doing that a lot too, kind of looking away from Tyron throwing. But they already tagged him. This was right after he got rocked. He tagged him with a good right hand. But, yeah, I think Jake won pretty much every round except for the round that he got hurt and the final round, I believe it was. I think it was 6-2 Paul, if I remember correctly. Good left hook there. Jake's left hook isn't really a power punch. It's kind of just slapping. And he throws it a lot when Woodley tries to throw his right hand. He ducks this way, not really looking, and throws that left hook. He likes that counter, so. And it'll be interesting to see what adjustments both guys make, because they've been in there with each other. And they can both watch film on the first fight. That was a looping left hook. There it is again. He really likes that check left hook. Woodley feints the Superman punch. Should have thrown it, man. Yeah, Jake Paul likes ducking to that safe pocket in boxing over your own hips. Billy Joe Saunders got punished for that, but a lot of boxers do that, where they duck over their own hips. That was a good right hand from Jake. Final round. And Woodley's being a little more aggressive here. It's a good look there from Jake countering over the top. But there's that look away left hook again. And yeah. So, again, we will have to see what kind of adjustments both guys make to their style. There's a nice left hook there. Yeah, we'll stop watching it there. I think that if Jake stays with that same game plan of jabbing to the body and keeping range, using his length a little bit, and probably having a little bit more speed since he is trying to come in lighter. And when he throws body punches, not kind of staying with his body punches, like changing levels with them instead of looking like punching down to the body. I think if he tightens up a few of those things, and that's what BJ was talking about as well, was tightening up some of the things that was wrong in the first one. And I think another thing they probably focused on was that left hook, that look away check left hook. It's a good option for Jake to throw that check left hook, but looking away and not seeing where you're punching, it's not going to cut it with someone higher level than Tyron, but even with Tyron, he got rocked because of it. Will Tyron be a little more aggressive this time? Hopefully, right? But you never know with Tyron. He's the frozen one for a reason. And when you think he'd go for broke, he doesn't. Except for in that Luque fight. But that didn't turn out well, did it? But then again, Vicente Luque would kill Jake Paul in a boxing fight, I think. That left hook from Luque, that check left hook from Luque is serious. So, yeah, I'm excited for this fight. If I had to make a prediction for who is going to win between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, I think I might go Woodley this time around. I just have this weird feeling that we're going to see Jake take a loss, and I think he'll take the loss well. Like, he'll be a good sport about it, and maybe he will use the excuse of that 12 days notice thing. But I think Woodley will win this fight. Yeah, I think he'll make the proper adjustments, and maybe they have a third fight. Isn't that a crazy world where Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley have a trilogy in a boxing match? Like, if you told me that 2 years ago when Jake Paul was fighting Deji, KSI's little brother, man, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? What kind of coke did you snort in the McDonald's bathroom before you told me this shit? But here we are. We're living in a simulation. So yeah, let's go on to the UFC event. Obviously, I haven't talked about it much, but I will talk about it a ton because I will be predicting all of the fights. Let me quickly... Whoa, chill out. Let me quickly pull up the card right now. Like I said, underrated card. It's quite stacked, and it is the final card of the year, so we will be void of some MMA for a little bit. I'll still have stuff to talk about, I'm sure. Events upcoming. So the main event, obviously, I guess we'll start with the main event. Derek Lewis and Chris Daukas. Derek Lewis coming off of that interim title shot loss to Cyril Gane where he just got outclassed thoroughly. And it was not a great matchup for Lewis, but what really is a good matchup for Lewis? You know? He's kind of just... He's got that right hand, and if you walk into it, he's going to kill you with it. He's got crazy power. I gotta thank Derek Lewis for about 500 of my subscribers because I made a montage about him. And that thing has like 600,000 views right now. So shout out Derek Lewis, nothing but love. Carried me to my 800 sub mark. But none of those subs watch these podcasts. They just want my Derek Lewis montage. It's fine. Pain. But he's fighting Chris Daukas, a former police officer in Philadelphia, which is pretty cool. And he was a part of the District 25, if I'm remembering correctly from that one video I watched, which is the most violent district in Philadelphia. Pretty cool. He retired to focus full-time on fighting, and he has a brother in the UFC, Kyle Daukas, who headbutted the shit out of Kevin Holland, knocked him out, and then choked him out, but it was ruled a no contest. So yeah, these two are brothers. If you couldn't tell, they're pretty similar looking. But Chris Daukas has had a quick ascension up the heavyweight ranks because heavyweight is quite shit in terms of people in the division. You're either like a 40-year-old who used to be good and just sticking around because it's heavyweight and you can stick around. And it doesn't matter if you get knocked out a ton. Like Alexei Oleinik, who's, I swear, been knocked out by everyone. I think I might have knocked him out at a point, I'm not sure. But he's still fighting. And Chris Daukas KO'd Terry Porter. Terry Porter, I'm pretty sure his name was. And then Harry Hunsucker, I believe he KO'd too. Then he KO'd Oleinik. And then Abdurrahimov. Kind of stunned. Like, I've never heard Shamil, I think is Shamil Abdurrahimov. I would call myself a hardcore MMA fan, but I don't really know who Shamil Abdurrahimov is, and he's ranked number 7. Like, who has he fought? I don't know. But he's ranked number 7, and he was ranked number 7, and Chris Daukas went in there and wiped the floor with him in 2 rounds. Daukas has quick hands for heavyweight, and he's young relative to heavyweights, and that's all you need to get in the top 10. So here he is fighting Derek Lewis in his, like, he's had, like, 2 ranked fights, Oleinik and Abdurrahimov. Pretty sure his name is. I might be fucking it up. But here he is fighting Derek Lewis. And if Derek Lewis lands that shot, then we know how all Derek Lewis fights goes. Daukas is the favorite. But he's just got to avoid that Lewis bomb. And if he can do that, you like his chances because Daukas has got faster hands. I'm sure he's got better cardio. He's a little bit more intelligent in there. His combos are really nice for heavyweight again. But Derek Lewis has got that bomb, and you got to stay away from it at all costs. I'll quickly run through these fights because we're already 35 minutes in, and I don't want to make this super long. So, in this fight, Chris Daukas will outbox him and has all the skills to beat him. Derek Lewis by KO. No, actually, I think I'm going to go Daukas. And I think Derek Lewis it's going to be a sad moment for Derek Lewis. And a good moment for Chris Daukas. Usually how losing and winning fights goes. But then the co-main, Stephen Thompson and Belal forget the name Muhammad. Pretty solid fight. Hopefully, Stephen Thompson puts a kickboxing clinic on Belal Muhammad because Belal Muhammad is quite boring and unlikable. Even though I don't really not like any fighters. Like, I don't not like Belal, but he's kind of just a little cringe and never finishes anybody. Like, you couldn't pay him to finish somebody. You couldn't give him the $500,000 Woodley bonus. He'd probably still go out there and decision someone. Guys he should be finishing. Obviously, Damian Maia is tough. But like Damian Maia, who Gilbert Burns finished, he couldn't finish Damian Maia. Yeah, Belal's just kind of, like, I go back and watch Belal fights and I'm like skipping through it. Like, he's not really good at anything. There's a big meme about him where it's like, you want power and you got Ngannou, you want karate, you got Thompson, you want absolutely nothing. You got Belal. He's just average at everything. But he's a decent fighter, and he mixes up his striking with his takedowns pretty well. He's got decent takedowns, and he's a decent striker. He's just decent all around. Forget the name Belal Muhammad. And obviously Wonderboy, amazing footwork, karate, based, amazing kicks, getting in a little older, and he wants to fight forever, he says, but the way he fights and his style is not really suited to that, because eventually those reflexes will start going down a little bit. He'll get a little less fast. He'll get a little less reaction time to punches coming at him because he's got his hands down. Karate style, he's got to rely on his footwork, his speed, and his reaction time to get out of the way of punches. And I think with age, that's going to go. Obviously, with age, it's going to go. But is he over the hill right now? The odds makers don't think so. He's minus 220 against Belal Muhammad. And I guess I'll just make my pick. I think I'm going to go Wonderboy. If Wonderboy doesn't win, I think this fight's definitely going to decision. There's no way. If this fight gets finished, especially by Belal Muhammad, I'm losing it. I'm shotgunning something. Probably friggin' just straight vodka. I've never drank in my life. I'm shotgunning a straight bottle of vodka if Belal Muhammad finishes this fight. Like, dead serious. There's no way. I'm going to eat my words, I bet. But I think I'm going to go Wonderboy by decision. Just keep him at bay. He'll avoid the takedowns of Muhammad because Muhammad's going to try to take him down. Hopefully his takedown defense is good enough to avoid the decent wrestling of Muhammad. And just keep it on the feet, throw side kicks, all the Wonderboy stuff. And then we go Amanda Lemos against Angela Hill. Amanda Lemos is a significant favorite. If I remember, she had a really good knockout win earlier in the year. And Angela Hill fought Tisha Torres at UFC 266, I think, which she lost. And I don't know if I said this already, but she's a big favorite. Amanda Lemos is. And I think I might go with Lemos. I think she's just a little more powerful than Angela Hill is. I think Angela Hill gets hit a little bit too much. Don't know if this will be finished because Angela Hill's tough. But yeah, I think I'll go Lemos. Unless Lemos gasses out. I could see her gassing out. I don't know why. Could see it happening. But I'm going to go Lemos. I'm guaranteed botching that name. By decision. And then we go Rafael Assuncao, he's like number 12, against Ricky Simone. And Ricky Simone is a big favorite in this fight. Wow. Ricky Simone probably going to try to wrestle a little bit. He's a wrestler. And Rafael Assuncao, you can't really look good against Assuncao. He's really good at having these tough fights. He's not very aggressive. He kind of just sits at the end of your range and makes it uncomfortable. Like, it's hard to fight Assuncao and look good, as I said. But he might be a little bit over the hill. I think his last fight was against Cody Garbrandt, where he got knocked out. But goddamn, I'm getting tired, man. I think we're just going to fly through these because I might fall asleep and we're already at 41 minutes. I think I'm going to go Simone. I think Simone's going to use that wrestling. And I think Assuncao's a little elderly. And then we go to Diego Ferreira against Matheus Gamrot. And Gamrot is a prospect. And Diego Ferreira is really good as well. He lost to Beneil Dariush and Gregor Gillespie recently. But before that, he was on like an 8-fight win streak, if I'm not mistaken. He beat Pettis. That was his last win on the win streak, and he was looking good. So this will be a good test for Gamrot, who I believe just submitted Jeremy Stephens in the first round, just dominated him, walked through him. I'm pretty sure that's this guy. Let me double check, because I don't want to be giving you false information out here. Gamrot. Yeah, he just dominated Jeremy Stephens. And before that, he knocked out Scott Holtzman. So this dude Gamrot is the favorite, and he's a prospect. And bouncing back off of those losses for Ferreira will be interesting, seeing how he deals with that. But I think Gamrot's just going to be too much for him. Too athletic, too strong, too powerful. Diego's a savvy vet, though, and it won't be an easy fight, nowhere near as easy as the Jeremy Stephens fight. I hope Diego can put somewhat of a fight up, but I think Gamrot's going to be a top contender at lightweight in the future, along with Fiziev, Saryukin, and Riddell, those type of guys. Those guys will be at the top of the division soon, along with Islam and Oliveira, maybe Gaethje. I literally just had a coffee from my Mrs. Cup that the viewers watching can see. But damn, I'm tired. And then Darren Elkins and Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson last lost to Giga Chikadze via Giga kick to the liver in the first round. Set that up beautifully, did Giga. But before that, Cub had a good win against Pineda. A nice knockout win. And he looked good in that. But knowing that this is a Darren Elkins fight, I see Cub beating the shit out of him for 1 or 2 rounds, and then Elkins going to sub him or something. Just Cub's going to be gassed out from pounding Elkins, and Elkins going to win somehow. That's how it always goes. Nah, for real, Cub is the favorite, and I think if Cub cannot gas out, which I think he'll be aware of because that's really Darren Elkins' only way of winning fights nowadays. I think if Cub doesn't gas out and stays calm in there, he'll just outstrike him, pick him apart, and he'll defend a couple of takedowns, I reckon. So I'm going to go Cub Swanson. That's the main card done. Prelims, Gerald Mearshart is fighting against Dustin Stoltzfus. I think I'll go Stoltzfus, honestly. He's the underdog. I'm just going to rapid fire through these. I'm going Stoltzfus. And then Ioni Barcelos against Victor Henry. Never heard of Victor Henry before. Have heard of Barcelos. Pretty sure I've seen him fight before. No odds on this one. I'm guessing Henry is a newcomer to the UFC. Not sure. Not even going to pick there. Tafa and Harry Hunsucker. Probably Tafa, honestly. Just knock him out. Sajara Eubanks, Melissa Gatto. Haven't heard of Gatto before. Have heard of Sajara Eubanks. Charles Jourdain, my boy. He had a really good performance in in his fight before his last fight, but then he lost in his last fight. But Charles Jourdain from Canada, I just like watching him fight. He's a good young prospect if he gets his shit figured out. Against Andre Ewell, another good young prospect, long for featherweight. That'll be a good fight. Cal Pennington, Bura, Dontel Mays. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I may or may not have pulled an all-nighter. I'm so dumb, man. Yeah, so I'm just going to wrap it up. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I hope you guys like my set. You know, I put a little bit of work into it, but it's not a permanent set. I think every Connells Combat Pod will have a different set. But I kind of like this set. No cap. My mom would never let me keep my room like this. I have my desk like 6 feet out and it's all mangled. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, you're a beast. Peace. Enjoy the fights.